will now come to order. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the July 2023 meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes for the June 15th meeting.
Second.
It has been motioned and second that we approve the July 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we will begin with public comments. If anybody have any comments, we ask that you come to the podium and please state your first and last name and your address.
Anything that's not on the agenda?
And that will be anything that is not on the agenda. Okay. All right, we will move to the next item of business, which is our new business. First item is variance for 320 North Summit Street.
How are y'all doing? Bobby Pickens. Obviously, our law firm is the law firm for the city, so I won't be giving any legal advice on this issue. So I just want to give you a little backstory of what we are trying to do. We moved into that 320 location, I believe it's been about 2.5 years ago, and it served us well for 2.5 years. But we're outgrowing it, which is always a good thing. We want to, right now it's just me and a secretary in that office. We want to bring another full-time secretary in. So it'd be 3 of us. That building just really can't accommodate 3 people. Also, if you've ever been in there, the AC is super loud. It's to the point where if I'm in any type of important hearing, deposition, telephone call, we have to turn the AC off just because it's so loud. It's also embarrassing. We have clients in there and the AC comes on and they think it's raining. That's how loud it is. So we have entered into an agreement with a contractor to build a building that'll be a slab, full built building. At first we were just gonna, if you can see it's a long and narrow building, we were just gonna stick it in long and narrow, so the short side of it would be facing 17th. We were talking to Charles, we believe, and we agree too, that the building is a lot more aesthetically pleasing if we spin it to where the long side is facing 17, but the lot is so narrow that we need a variance. I believe it's about 6 feet on both sides so that we can place the building that, the way I think that it'll be more pleasing to everybody involved. And I think that if we're able to do this, that it'll just entrench our legal firm into the community for the foreseeable future. We also do own with another person, my boss, they bought both of those properties, so it's a common owner. The old, well now it's the Caldwell Banker building, so they're both shared, so we'd be able to share parking, that type of stuff. There still would be enough room to get back to behind our office. So that's really it. If you have any questions.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
in front of your office, you're gonna be putting parking spaces?
Correct.
Ready to pave?
I don't believe they are, because then I think we would have to put in a retention pond, so I think it's still gonna be
That's, well,
Yeah, I mean, those are site plan issues, you're hearing the variance tonight, so in theory, nothing associated with, items that are outside the variance and that criteria are relevant. I mean, certainly ask questions, but just, that's, it's on the basis of the decision that you're making here tonight. Procedurally, what will happen is, this is a variance request, so you guys will either grant the variance or deny the variance. If you grant the variance, this essentially becomes the new rules that apply to this property. This particular variance is just for 2 components, so they will then have to go forward through the process of developing a site plan and coming through the various processes that the city's established for that. So there'll be just, there'll be an approval of demolition of the existing building and a site plan will get developed for the property.
and does any of that come back before us?
The site plan will come back before you.
Okay, so.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Have the abutters been asked their opinion? Or
You mean-
the neighborhood property owners about the variance?
Well, the one on the, so if you're looking.
One is you.
One is us, the other one is the Yash Market, which I believe they're right up on the property line. I don't think I haven't spoken to them.
So nobody's been asked, correct?
And that's not one of the criteria, so.
I understand, well, I understand that now, but in most communities, it is.
In most communities, there's, notice requirements, for variances.
Better state, that's right.
Yeah, and in the new land development code, there will be notices requirements for, these type of activities.
Good to know.
Your current land development code
Doesn't-
does not have, notice requirements for these actions.
And just out of curiosity, the setback requirements are what? The side?
The two variances being requested, one is for the setbacks, the required setback in the GC is currently 10, and the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting two variances, one to reduce the minimum lot size from 10,000 to 8,400 square feet, and then to reduce the required side setbacks from 10 feet to 6 feet 8 inches.
I don't see anything about lot size.
Yeah, right, so-
All right, just the paperwork just says setback requirements, that's what I thought.
Okay, there's a staff report that,
Sorry, that one, so.
have you seen this staff, there's an application?
No, I don't have that.
Okay.
You don't have.
I don't have that.
So they were requesting two variances. One, as I said, is to the minimum lot size. This particular lot is 60 by 140, so that's 8,400 square feet. And the requirement is 10,000, GC1.
But that's already existing, so. Because they haven't changed the lot size is there. Because you wouldn't be able, it's GC1, the lot size is 8,400 square feet.
Correct.
Create.
So let me explain something on your current land development code. Your current land development code has an exception or waiver that allowed residential lots that were created before 1975 to remain buildable. They were basically deemed legal non-conforming lots under the land development code. So if this had been a residential lot and it didn't meet the minimum lot sizes and it was created prior to 1975, they would not need to come to you.
And it was a residential lot for a while.
But it is now zoned commercial and there's no similar exemption that's created. So once they remove the building and they need this variance in order to reestablish a new one, because it's a non-conforming structure and a non-conforming lot, which can be maintained in perpetuity, so.
Okay. So being that our current, variance do not require us to notify, neighbors, what is the recommendation? What are you recommending?
Okay, first of all, the staff report. Staff report goes, I'm not gonna read the entire staff report, but I do want to point out to you that there is a
Yeah, but that's for you.
number of criteria that are set forth in the land development code. There are 7 items that the land development code sets out. So each of those criteria are answered in the staff report. We found that all of them have been met, and I just want to make that part of the record. And so our recommendation is that you approve the variance request, both of them.
Okay. Yeah, based on what I read, it didn't have, they had, for each criteria, they had a description of whether or not they were gonna have minimum impact or no impact or whatever. So I didn't see an issue
And I
was
was,
anything that I had any questions.
and my question is, so normally it's 10 feet, and they're gonna build it to 6 feet 8 inches or something?
Correct.
Okay, so that's 4 feet, I mean, and one side is, like you said, your neighbors, it's your same property owners. But, sorry, I just didn't get to.
And then the other side, the other
Yacht
neighbor
Mart
is
is built to the wall, or built
to the
wall.
property line, it appears, yeah. So I went down and looked at it, and, I admire the great oak behind it. And it appears that's gonna stay.
I think that it will, with us being able to turn it, I think that it will.
Yes, yeah, and, I think it's a vast improvement. And I think that it's gonna better serve, your clients, particularly those who are handicapped. Obviously, it's a small structure that you have, and, but,
It is accessible though.
oh, I saw the ramp, yes, but I think this new building's gonna be even better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and honestly, it looks better than what's there.
That's-
Yeah, so obviously air conditioning can be changed out, and so forth, but, and given that, the building itself, I think is gonna be such an improvement, and you're so restricted. Plus, there's an abundance of, land in the back,
Yes,
given the site plan that you provided.
yes, sir.
One other question, this does still have to go before the historic preservation board, because it's in the historic district?
The variance does not, but the project, technically, although it's not a contributing structure, they will have to, technically approve the demolition of the existing building, although it's, like I said, it's not contributing, so I'm assuming that that is not going to be a significant issue. And then, of course, they will approve the appearance of the new building.
That's what I was asking about, the architectural standards, because it's in the historic district. Madam Chairman, I go ahead, I would like to make a motion to approve. Now, do I need to approve each variance or?
It would, you could either make a motion to approve the requested variances, or you can state the variances.
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we approve the requested variances for 320 North Sun Street.
Second,
It has been motioned and second that we approve the variance for property located at 320 North Summit Street. Yes, okay. At this time, we'll have public comment. So we ask that you come to the podium, state your name, address. Ms. Karen?
Kenyatta Hadi. Aye. Ian Dodge,
Aye.
William Laurie,
Aye.
Veronica Glover.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're done.
Okay, we're going right along. Final site plan review and approval of Moonshine Landing.
This item is site plan approval. This is a 14-acre, approximately plus or minus, property. It's located at US 17 and South Prospect Street. There's an inset location map in the staff report. The site attached to the set, I think you've been provided copies of, at least half-size sets, but excerpts of the plan are attached to the staff report as well. The site plan depicts 105 space recreational vehicle park with cabins and glamping sites, tent sites, and approximately 20,500 square feet of accessory buildings. This property is zoned PUD. So there was an approved PUD that was adopted by the city commission back in May of 2020. And so 20, I think it was 2021, okay. And staff has reviewed it against both the requirements that have been established in the PUD and against the land development code. The PUD is fairly simple document as far as PUDs go. It has some standard language in regards to establishing the agreement and how amendments were made. It talks about how they have to go through a subsequent approval process, which is what they're going through tonight, which is site plan approval. It identified the primary use and a number of accessory uses. It established some operational requirements for it in terms of noise standards and that sort of thing, in terms of when they can be having music or other types of audible sound. So there's operational aspect, and then it set forth dimensional standards. Primary focus of it was regards to the buffers and how the property would appear from the exterior. The main concept established in the site plan was that much of the perimeter was going to be attempted to be left in as natural state as possible, and then backed up by fences. So the idea is that there would be a natural screen established or left, and 8-foot high vinyl fences, and then then either the appurtenances, things like the stormwater, and then the RV park proper itself, so kind of established perimeter. And so that's essentially what you see in this site plan that's before you. One of the things that we have worked with the applicant to establish of particular importance at my understanding of the PUD hearing was that northern buffer, that buffer along Prospect Street. And so that is the largest of the 3 buffers that were established, 50 feet, 20 feet along US 17 and 20 feet along the southern boundary. But there was a number of, in terms of most detail, was the northern boundary. So the way this has been established in the site plan, there on the landscape plan, you can see that there's indication that the natural vegetation will be left in place, but it will also be supplemented by other trees to ensure that a good screen is established in front of that wall. The plan also indicated that the first full 25 feet of that, the northernmost 25 feet of that buffer would be where that landscaping occurs. And then it did allow things like stormwater and other features within it, but all the RV spaces are south of that. In the staff report, I went through all sort of the major elements that were reviewed: parking, landscaping, traffic, building design, stormwater, environment, and utilities. In terms of traffic, this is a fairly low traffic generator. In in the sense that it generates, as pointed out in the staff report, it generates 23 AM peak hour trips and 29 PM peak hour trips. So those are well below any thresholds that you would see for traffic analysis, or more detailed traffic analysis, or turn lane requirements for DOT. They've already made application to DOT for their various permits. They'll have to obtain multiple permits from DOT. They'll have to obtain permits, a driveway use permit, so connection to the state road. They also have to apply for drainage permits, because some of their drainage will basically pop off to US 17. So they'll have to obtain both those permits. My understanding is that they've already applied for their, and they've received comments, and they're resolving those as well. They'll have to obtain a number of environmental permits in addition. So St. John's will be reviewing this, DEP and Army Corps of Engineers will be reviewing this as well. They'll have to present all those prior to getting a building permit. All of the issues that staff addressed with them have been resolved, with the exception of one item. That is related to, and that's covered under utilities. And that issue that has not been resolved is fire flow. So there isn't sufficient fire flow to the site in order to fight a fire. However, that can be mitigated by design, right? So the way you do that typically is by sprinkling buildings. You might have to have some additional fire suppression tanks on site. All of these things are actually better addressed with the design of the building. So one of the things that staff is recommending is one condition that be placed on your approval. And in the staff report, we wrote out that condition for you verbatim. And it states, the developer's engineering team shall provide an on-site solution to address fire suppression requirements, including but not limited to fire sprinkler systems, fire pumps, storage system, etc. A Florida professional engineer shall provide a signed, sealed, and dated design with supporting materials, plans, calculations, etc., to accompany the first building permit submittal, along with any necessary site plan modification. So all of these things reduce the demand for water on site. Obviously, if you're sprinkling the building and there's some sort of fire on it, that immediately reduces the demand that you'd expect to have if you're gonna just try to fight that fire by connecting a fire hose to an exterior fire hydrant. So that's why we're saying that this is best addressed with the design of the buildings. There's other ways that all this can be mitigated as well, in terms of the design of the building, and, firewalls, all those things that can be done to kind of reduce the demand for water. It's all done by calculation based on how much water pressure is available and how much water can be delivered. So their designs of their building and these other actions will reduce those demand requirements. So we think the best way to address that is in conjunction with the design of the borough construction. And what we've reviewed for and what we're approving tonight is the horizontal construction of the site. The applicant's engineer is here, Red Jones, and I think it would be appropriate that now that you've heard from me, if you hear from them after you've asked me any questions you wish to ask.
So you handled the fire safety issues within the buildings very well, and I fully understand, and are familiar with them. But my concern still remains on the sites, pads, where the campers are. Because, and I'll admit, I'm more of a boater than an RV person. But, I'm very familiar with fires, on boats and how dangerous they can be, and, particularly, with a galley and large amount of fuel stored. So how is that going to be addressed? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. How is that going to be addressed?
They'll have, like I said, they'll have a tank system on site, that will, basically provide additional water and additional pressure. So there'll be ability to fight fire.
So,
So they're supplementing the pressure, right? They'll
so you spoke of the buildings, but it also applies to the individual.
Yeah, it does
sites.
apply to the individual stuff,
Yeah.
but,
And the cabins, of
But-
course,
but-
and the tanks.
right. But our primary concern, obviously, there's cooking going on site, there's places of assembly. So those are the areas where we're most concerned, where people are gonna congregate.
Certainly, and I appreciate that. I have, another comment. These are impossible for us to read. I think that we need to have full set of drawings in order to review it. Yes, the full set are available here for us to come in and look at. However, with a complicated development such as this, multiple reviews I've found, are very helpful at my leisure, because I like to go through first draft, set it down, and then come back. So I would like to request that, we each get a full set of drawings, which is common. Communities.
It varies from community to community. It's becoming less common to provide full-size paper sets. Most places I'm familiar with today do electronic, but if that is what the board wants, that's what we'll provide. If you do have the capability to review them electronically, which is really how we do it now.
I can appreciate that, but my home
Yeah.
screen isn't
Yeah.
as large as a full set.
Yeah.
And as an individual, I can say that I'm used to looking at full sets of drawings.
And doing it on electronically, I mean, I have a 65-inch screen, but still, you're going from zooming in, zooming out, going one side to the other. It's kind of hard to, it does look nice to sit all there and look at it, but
And then make notes.
can I ask a question?
Well, should we get a consensus? Ladies, how do you feel?
The paperwork is difficult to read, but I don't know how easy it will be to make a full size and what that would look like. So
Yeah, I
When
mean,
they're there, the
In
applicant just
future,
provides it.
in future, that's the decision of the board. This really is an administrative item that doesn't apply to the approval of this set. I think in future, if you guys want, we'll make the applicants provide full-size sets.
And we're just, if you bear with us a moment, we're just trying to make sure that we all agree with that. Okay?
now, is that something, that's a lot to print out for every one of us. Is that something that you can come up if it's available here at the city?
But it's, Kim, it's not convenient for me. And I've had decades of looking at plans,
Mhm.
and 10 in government. And we were always given a full set. And the great thing is that you can look at it, make notes, and then put it down, think about it, and then come back. Here, it's difficult, it isn't as convenient. I think, for me, it's much better to have a full set. And particularly so I can read it,
And perhaps we could just ask for 2 or 3 sets.
And then do over,
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Say,
I don't
okay.
need a paper set, but
you can come and borrow it,
sure, yeah.
take it home, check it out like that, right there.
So 2 cents.
Well, then we'll get back with you. But definitely multiple sets,
Okay.
okay? Thank you for your patience.
Now, my question, we have your staff report, hopefully I have the same one as everyone else. But you referred to the PUD agreement several times, that's what you're laying out. Is the reason why we don't have copies of that, the actual PUD agreement? I tried to find it, and it's not something that was given, when the city commission approved it in May of 2021, it's not on the website. I would just like to see that. I mean, I trust your ability, but that's something that I think would be helpful for all of us to be able to read, to see where exactly, because I mean, my questioning, one of my things is the landscaping. Well, this, in the plans that show that, native vegetation would be left, I just drove by there and there's barely anything there. And also, this land was cleared before now. And this is, all the plans are treating it as if it was still forested.
Well,
And why did that, I mean,
the certain, it was at one time heavily wooded,
right,
right? And they did go on site and clear some trees. That occurred prior to my working with
I mean,
the
it's
town.
not some trees.
So that's right, so that was, that gets treated by code enforcement. Prior to the site plan, it's, technically, that issue isn't part of the approval of site plan. That would have been a code enforcement issue to be addressed at the time that the violation occurred.
Okay, well then on here you talk about traffic, and it refers to the fact that the number of trips that are added to 17. But no offense, but an RV is not the same thing as a car. I mean, I've talked to several people just in the last 2 days that are RVers, that, when you have a car and you're towing or you have an RV that's so much feet long, which I'm sure you're gonna have some pretty big ones in there, you're towing a car behind it most of the time, right? And you might be bringing a boat or, one of those things, you're gonna be a huge vehicle, and turning out on the 17 and then just going, it doesn't just pick up like a car. And that location is really unique in the fact that it's dangerous as heck. And we just drove down there today, and just turning out in my minivan, to sit there to turn into traffic or turn the other way is almost impossible. And I know that's not necessarily our purview, but it is something being built in our city. And I just don't know I was not here when they approved it, but the entrance, it just seems like the entrance going out, it would make more sense to go out to Summit, or to go out to Prospect instead of Summit.
Well, they have two entrances, and you typically want
The one said, it says that's emergency zone, right? So then that's not an entrance. That's for emergencies. What's an emergency? For fire trucks?
for the ability, right, if there was some issue with the,
Okay, so then that doesn't count as an entrance. The entrance is out on 17. The customers that are coming in, the RVers are gonna be coming in and off of 17, right?
that'll be the primary entrance. That's an arterial, and that's where you normally would focus it. Typically, as a planner, my first thought would not be to make a primary entrance on a local collector versus, an arterial roadway, right? Right. This is way below the warrants for a turn lane. Turn lane, you have to do about 80 an hour. Right, this is at its peak.
But you're still treating it like a car is a car and not an RV.
Then I'm treating it like an RV. They've already applied for the permits.
The fact is, it's a safety issue.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
It's a huge safety issue. I went down there and looked at the site as well. And I'm also very concerned with it. Logically, for safety, turn lanes should be put in. When somebody, and the other thing is, if you're coming from the south, visibility is not good at all because there's rocks. And then the speed limit is 55. And in my experience, most people go faster than 55 there.
But
I understand.
when it was approved, I was under the impression that was one of the things that a turning lane was gonna be put in. Like when the cars are coming up the hill, I mean, that there was gonna be a turning lane for them to enter into the park.
I haven't found anything in the record that would indicate that. It's a FDOT road, right?
Right, yes.
They have jurisdiction of it. This act that you're doing tonight this is basically administrative, right? There are three primary actions that the city does in regards to planning. You have all three of them on your agenda tonight. The first item is the variance, that was quasi judicial, right? The land development code is legislative. In this, site plan is ministerial. You have the most discretion when it comes to a legislative act. The next level is at this quasi judicial level, the variance, right? You have to make decisions based on substantial competent evidence. This, you have to have a rule that says if you want to require a turn lane, you have to find a rule that says a turn lane is required. You can't, as a ministerial act, at site plan level, you can't go based on your sense that it could or might be dangerous.
But what we
So-
could do is request a further, review of it to see if there is a possible way of,
Yeah, so I think, so
Sure.
when you go through when you go through the PUD, right, that's a legislative act. And so I think, in future, as we do more of these things, we'll kind of be clued in to get these things early and get them in writing.
Yeah. And let me clarify something, when I mentioned about the turning lane, I was just under the impression, not that the applicants would be putting in that turning lane, but that was something automatically that DOT would require, that a turning lane, that they would put a turning lane there for safety purposes. That's what I just assumed, that, for the safety, not that you all would put one there, but DOT would automatically, because I think that's some of what happened in Barbersville, why that store had been open, because of the footage of turning in there and everything, it's not safe. So I automatically thought that would be part of the process, that DOT would, have to be a part of the decision and say, okay, we got to put a turning lane in there for safety purposes, so.
I'd like to go back, but did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, DOT looks at what they call warrants. So, the primary threshold is, number of trips. Right? And so this, they're gonna look at the road itself, the volume of traffic, the design of the road, and then they're gonna look at the number of trips per hour. And so they would require it if it is over that threshold or sometime near that threshold. I think it'd be appropriate on that particular issue to hear from the engineer. They made application to DOT for the permit, and they've gone back and forth with DOT. So I think, they could, enlighten you as to some.
Yes, and I'd like to it'd be interesting to see their opinion, whether it would benefit everyone to have turning lanes. I'd like to go back to the site itself, and the tree removal. I also went to the site, of course, and, basically what it looks like is that they left perimeter, trees, around the lot lines. But the interior of the lots, trees have been eliminated. When I look at what's before me here and today, I see that there are a lot of trees that are represented here to be taken down, but actually don't appear to be there today. They've already been taken down. So my concern is what applications were made to remove the trees?
I can't speak to that. That, as I indicated, that was done before.
What the applicant can.
You can ask that question to the applicant, yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
The other concern I have is the vegetation, particularly on the north side, that's a residential community. And there's quite a sudden change from a very pleasant residential community to this, let's call it a resort facility. And so I'm concerned with several things. I'm concerned about this emergency exit because I need more definition on it. Will it be gated? Could people easily go in and out of it? Secondly, there are retention ponds on that north side, and in what appears to be the buffer zone. And I certainly understand the need for drainage, and also the applicants need to have sufficient units, spaces, to make it his business work. But my concern is for the residential area, and that there isn't enough vegetation block between this very nice development request and our fine residents.
Okay, let me intervene. So, okay, the Moonshine Land and RV Park applicants, they were asked to go back and clear up things that we requested of them. Am I correct? Because I'm the only one that is still sitting here that voted on the original plan. And we voted on it and we gave them the yes, and we have requested that they go and bring back to us, unfortunately, things that we wanted them to take care of. So I'm asking that what we have requested of them, have they taken care of those things?
And I guess in that regard, it would have been helpful in our package to have a copy of the minutes of that meeting.
Yeah, because we can't blame them if they're doing what has been asked of them, and we have to honor that.
It's just, we don't know.
We have to honor, and that's what I'm asking. And I know this has been a process that's been going on quite a while. And if we ask them that respectfully, we have to honor that. Because we voted on that, and if they're doing what we asked them to do, we have to respect that.
Well, I might add to that, we have a responsibility to our residents as well, to do the best thing.
And I think,
So,
right, and I think that there were some, things when we voted on this that the residents were concerned about, and they were addressed. And, that they would take care of them. That one thing was the lighting shining in the residents' home. That was addressed at the meeting. The traffic that would be going on Prospect, that was addressed. Because that was some issues and concerns that came up at that time. So, and I know this has been going back and forth, so I am asking the things that we requested of them to do, did they take care of them?
So as I said, we reviewed this against the PUD and land code. There is language that talks about lining in the PUD. There's language that talks about the buffer, like, for example, a minimum 50-foot landscape buffer, which may include grass, dry retention swales between 20 and 50 feet from the property line, is required along the northern property line as shown in the attached preliminary plan. Within this 50-foot buffer area, there will be a 25-foot natural vegetation between the northern property line and the screening required in paragraph 6, which is the fences, which I described earlier. Right, we've gone one additional step, because having looked at the natural vegetation, right? That's the language that's in this agreement, right? So we've asked them to include a note that essentially we'll be able to go out in the field once they've started working, before they've completed the plan, and make them supplement it with cypress and Leland cypress, I think, and red cedar. So all we can go by is the language that's either in your land development code and what was in the PUD. You have the applicant's engineer here, and you know, and I think if you have some questions about how something is gonna be specifically implemented.
To answer your question, yes, what was agreed on is the PUD. And not only has our planner reviewed it, but our engineering firm and staff have reviewed it, and they have met what was spelled out in PUD and as well as our code. That's why the staff's recommending approval with that one condition when they go for a building permit, they'll need to meet those requirements.
So there's a written report on this agreement, probably itemized, and it would be very helpful if we as a commission were copied on that, so when we took into consideration of this, we would have that information.
I think that's in the staff report.
No, the agreement is.
No, the agreement, and typically, I would not have, you know, normally you don't, I would not attach the PUD unless we were approving the PUD tonight. So if you'd like that in the future, when we go forward with PUDs, we'll provide it.
I think it would be excellent. I mean, it just educates us to make a decision quicker and less conversation. I don't like talking to you, but, you know, you've got things to do, we've got things to do. So, okay, I have one other question. I just want to make a comment that in reading the site plan, particularly with the trees and so forth, there are various times when I picked up that, and this is one of the problems, you can't really read it now, but anyways, it said that it wasn't absolute. The counts could have errors, is what it implied. So it wasn't really a accurate tree survey, to my point, which concerns me, because normally, what I've seen in my past history is that there is an accurate tree history, and it's documented that these are the trees and shrubberies that exist, and I think that's lacking here. I have another one too that's just, it may not be appropriate at this time, but trash collection. I didn't see anything on trash collection. For instance, where would dumpsters be stored? How would they be hidden? You have a lot of units here, plus a restaurant, recreational area, but I couldn't see any. So, and maybe these fine people can answer that.
I think we just need to let the applicants come and answer some of those questions.
I'm Ryan Gilmore with Moonshine Landing RV Resort.
And your position?
I'm the developer.
Oh, great. Pleasure to meet you.
Good to meet you. As far as the fire code exception that was placed on it, I want to clarify that the only structure on the property that the fire, flow did not meet necessary numbers is our clubhouse structure.
Oh,
Okay, the one clubhouse structure, which is the largest structure on the property, is about an 8,000 square foot building. That is the building that requires fire sprinklers, okay? The city's, fire hydrant water supply is 495 gallons a minute. That building had a higher count required. All of the other buildings and the RV pads are satisfied by that 495 gallon a minute flow rate that the city already provides. Okay,
There are hydrants, right? that will be
we are
installed.
installing hydrants, I think it's 7 or 8 inside of the park. Okay,
may I ask you a question?
Mhm.
So the restaurant is covered with the existing pressure?
that's correct. And there'll be fire suppression inside
There'll
the,
be an engine
Kitchen.
system in the hoods,
Correct.
in the kitchen?
absolutely, yes.
Good.
Mhm. Yep. So the only, building that was in question was the clubhouse. And we are putting in a cistern system that will hold enough, water to supply the fire sprinklers. Once you fire sprinkler a building, the rating goes down by, I think it's, 60% or something like that, 70%, which brings us down to that 495 amount that we have, that the city already provides.
Yeah, and I have a general question. So you have the restaurant, and I see that you have outside dining, and I assume that's outside sitting area. I assume that's gonna be for dining, if people choose.
Dining and lounging,
Yeah, and then I assume you'll have interior dining,
that's correct, yes, sir.
and then you have a recreational building, et cetera. Do you know what the components of the interior of the clubhouse will be at this time?
Expand on your question, what
Well,
components?
normally a clubhouse will have the dining room, the kitchen, the bar.
No, the
couple
clubhouse
guardrails,
is,
living room.
did they?
What will yours have? Do
Okay.
you know?
So
Do you know
our
what yours will have?
clubhouse will have, it should have been provided in your plans, but, it'll have a large camp store, where we sell,
Sure,
logo apparel, that type of thing.
yeah,
It'll have, 5 private restrooms with showers, just going to the back house, if you will. It'll have a, coin laundry facility. It'll have a lounge area that'll have a pool table, ping pong table, couches, a gas fireplace, card tables. And then it'll have a video arcade section of the building also for kids.
and along those lines, do you know at this time if you, are going to only cater to on-site customers? Or might you have a local membership for your,
So,
or have a public restaurant?
That kind of touches a little bit into the next item that I was gonna cover for you,
Okay,
and that's the DFDOT, traffic counts.
okay, would you like to go there now?
Sure, and that'll kind of answer a little bit. For the most part, our facility will be for our guests.
Mhm.
We will allow, outside patrons to come in via boat, pedestrian traffic, or golf cart traffic. This was kind of a concession on our part to keep the traffic count down, to keep us under any requirements for decel lanes and turn lanes and whatnot. When you're talking about the traffic counts, FDOT has specific traffic counts for every type of property. You know, a restaurant has this, a shopping center has this, an RV park has this. So our traffic counts are well below the, requirements where they would implement the need for any decel lanes or turn lanes. based upon the speed limit of that area and the amount of traffic and the traffic count on that area.
So you mentioned that you allow pedestrian entry, golf cart entry. Will they be able to use the facilities or just pass through?
They'll be able to use the restaurant facilities, yes.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you.
As far as potential entrance from Summit, we did look at that. Our initial plan that we came with had our entrance on Summit Street and Prospect Street. And that basically was squashed. The neighbors did not want that, and we understood. And that's why we moved the entrance to Highway 17 as far south on our property as we could get it legally. The emergency entrance that is there is gated. It's only an entrance in to the property.
For
For fire trucks, ambulances, police. It will be gated, and the only access codes that people will have is for the emergency service
Yeah, I
vehicles.
saw the box or the box.
So if there's an alarm, will it automatically open or will the emergency vehicles have to come and
They yell.
put in
They
a
have yeah,
passcode?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's a box that they.
No, I understand.
there is a, secondary oversized sidewalk to Prospect Street to allow pedestrians or golf cart traffic in and out of there.
I was gonna ask you about that. No, there's no actually sidewalk on the right of way there. So is that golf cart entrance just going to the pavement?
There is a sidewalk there,
That
On your property?
yes.
goes around the
Oh.
corner, is there? Oh, and then the trail that they go. Okay, so it connects there, okay.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, because they built it and it goes across there. That was part of the multi-use trail, the FUG paid for. Yeah, it's not on the
Is
plans,
that-
yeah.
Oh, it's not on the plans.
It doesn't, I don't see it on the plans.
I saw, going on to Prospect, I saw the emergency,
Yeah, and then right next to is the golf cart.
oh, that's a golf cart.
Yeah, that's the golf cart.
Oh, I see, okay,
There
yeah,
is
it was
a side-
labeled as a driveway. I understand, it's golf
Yeah,
cart
because it does say
driveway.
road,
Yes,
road one or road
Yeah,
nine.
okay, thank you.
and it'll have, like it'll have a gate on it that will be shut at the end of the night,
Okay.
so it'll be
And that's,
secured.
now, the roads that you have in here, are these one-way roads, each one of these, because one, they look skinny, and then there's a fat one road C, and then there's skinny.
So there are a combination of two-way and one-way roads in the park, inside the park.
I thought I saw arrows on them, right?
As far as the northern buffer, our initial ask, I think, was only 25 feet. Again, we met with the local residents and agreed to a 50-foot buffer that would include our stormwater. We would also install a 8-foot vinyl fence, and they requested that we planted the Leland cypress trees along that entire perimeter of the property from Prospect to the lake, essentially.
The plants be on the outside of the fence?
It will be on the outside of the fence, that's what they asked us to do.
It's
Yes,
an 8-foot fence?
it is an 8-foot fence, yes, sir.
So I saw, on your southern border, somewhere, I saw a great concentration of trees.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that on the northern border, on these plans.
Kind of the trees.
I'm not sure.
The call out,
There's existing trees there now,
Well, I'm familiar with
so
that.
we'll be planting these Leland cypress in between those at as
Do you
close
know how
together
many-
as we can get to.
Do you know how many that will be?
I believe we're gonna try to do it every 12 feet, which is only which isn't very much for the growth of the trees.
No, yeah.
Be tight together.
And not necessarily pertinent to this, but I was just trying to figure out, the glamping tents are they actually on a deck? Raised up the tunnels?
They are.
Okay, I was trying, I was like, this is weird, I couldn't figure it out.
Yes.
And I see the cabins too, which all around, I mean, it's a great looking place, it's a lot bigger than I had expected. I guess, but I wasn't here when we did the first PUD. And then there's one part that in the back, I guess you're gonna be stabilizing the seawall, and filling in some of that.
There is an area that, we will be building a small bulkhead that's about 2 to 4 feet in height, right behind the RV sites. But that's it, otherwise everything is staying as natural as
Staying
possible.
natural. And I mean, obviously, we're not dealing with the dock and everything, because that's not our purview, but I just wanted to, because I saw the dock on one of the drawings, and then I don't see it any other time. That's something that I guess we'll do later, or we won't deal with at all. Do we want to talk to the engineer? I answered my questions, I guess. Oh, I do have one question. The pads, they're the weird shaped things, and then they have a place for a car right next to them, is that what it is?
No, that's,
Picnic
that's
area.
the picnic area, so there'll be a picnic table
I'm sorry.
on that area.
Sorry, yeah, I
No,
guess
no problem.
my father does, my stepfather does, so they,
Mm-hmm,
and then that pad is made of what? It's asphalt or concrete?
concrete,
Okay.
it'll be concrete or pavers. One of
And
the
in
two.
between them, it's just grass?
Grass. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it, not that, I was just wondering if there's something more pervious that you can put down there. I guess pavers would be, but if you can you drive
As
around
far
on
as, like,
pavers?
That's the biggest issue is
Oh,
the concrete is gonna be the strongest for
Right,
the RVs. You know, you get a 50-60,000 pound Prevost in there.
Yeah.
There's not much that can
yeah, no,
hold those. So,
they're big. Well, thank you.
I'm Rudd Jones with Matthews Design Group.
In your position, sir?
I'm Senior Project Manager.
Oh, great, thank you.
The first comment I wanted to make was that I am fully on board with your idea about the large plans. I can't read little plans either.
Thank you.
And so you've got my sympathy in having, reviewing smaller plans. It drives me crazy when I have to do it. So I think a lot of the questions have been answered, but is there anything in particular that you still have concerns about or more questions about?
I was wondering what your conversations with DOT,
Um,
or I guess you.
DOT, it's their road. They do not let you put turn lanes in just because you want to.
Right.
You have to demonstrate that you meet the warrants required for it. And even then, they're reluctant to let you do it. I've had several clients, in the past, one car dealership in particular, that wanted to put in turn lanes. And DOT told them, no, you cannot put a turn lane in here, it's not warranted. And the DOT has been moving away from right turn lanes off of multi-lane highways. And they just don't want you messing with their road unless it's warranted. So we could ask for one and they would not let us do it if we wanted to.
But you've applied for your.
We've applied for
driveway
access,
permit and the drainage? Is that-
access and drainage and utilities as well, Kyle, right?
Yes, sir.
Access, drainage and utilities.
Yeah.
They are prepared to issue those. There is a little bit of topography they want us to get to document field conditions that even they in the field agree exist. They just want us to document a little bit of information right along the right of way with respect to the drainage.
So,
And the drainage does not drain to the highway. Everything goes to the lake.
so did they even ask for like a taper?
No. Anything they would have asked for, we would provide.
What about the speed limits? That just always, because I know it slows down, I was trying to see where you're at.
Yeah, when you hit the top, it goes from 55 to 45.
Yeah, again, they established the speed limits. It's their road and they do what they want to with it.
Well, also what would help if they would put in a traffic light at junction at 17.
It's even harder to get a traffic light.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, we're putting together a wish list.
Yeah,
I understand. But safety is our concern, is
absolutely.
it is yours.
They've just recently improved an intersection in front of I live in San Mateo. They just recently improved the intersection there at East End Road.
Yeah.
And, initially they wanted to put a roundabout in there. We fought that pretty hard. But we're very pleased with what they've done. It's made that a lot safer place. The visibility around that corner was horrible.
Yeah, you could not see the trucks going right at you.
Unfortunately, history has shown that, there has to be a few nasty, hideous accidents sometimes to,
Well, they need statistics.
right, yes, yeah.
Could you, speak a little bit more to the water, fire suppression issue for us?
Yes, the city has, very close to the amount of fire suppression water that we need, but it's just not quite enough. And we've been working with the fire marshal and meeting and negotiating things with the fire marshal to come to a reasonable solution to the issues. And recently have come to, relatively recently have come to agreement on how we're going to address the fire issue. So, there are multiple ways that you could provide additional water. You could have a dry hydrant to the lake. But the likeliest way of doing it is with a cistern we'll put somewhere on the site. It's an expensive system to design and build. So we want to leave the design and construction of that until we get approvals here and are moving forward. We're doing something similar on another project over in St. Johns County right now, so.
So in Old Florida, properties, there's time to have cisterns and they collected rainwater. Will you know if you'll have that option as well as water?
In all likelihood, this will be filled with water from the city. So we'll use, and the city's capacity will go to our credit and what's available to us to use.
Sure.
We just have to have some extra on hand to be able to fill it. We'll have to be able to demonstrate the rate at which it fills will be an issue with regard to how much water is available to us. So we'll have the water in the cistern plus water available from hydrants. There's a distribution system around the place with several hydrants spaced properly to meet the fire marshal's requirements.
Because like we mentioned before, I mean, boats and RVs, they have problem. When one starts, you don't want them to spread. When we replace the South Prospect water main in the next few years, is that gonna help with the fire flow? Because you're putting in a much larger main, right?
I would fully expect so.
Because that's been there a long time.
Right.
And I have a feeling it's not at all the interior diameter that it used to be, so. Yes, I am, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So going back to the trees and the planting. So I found a page that shows trees to be planted, and I see an abundant, again, as I stated, and very, very condensed on the southern border. I just don't see it on the northern border.
Right, because the intent of that buffer is to try to accomplish it with what is there naturally, and then to supplement it. We will, and there's notes on there that basically says we're gonna field verify this during construction, to supplement it so that we get
See, I'm used to seeing an actual plan showing what's going to be planted, with existing trees that are already there. When I look at this plan on that northern one, it shows a few that are gonna be added. And then, but,
That little tiny writing right
yeah,
there.
excuse me, but it also shows a great many that are gonna be removed on that border. It's, I find it unusual, but it's not complete at this time.
Well, actually, we're giving you a little more than what the code would likely require there. What the difficulty in working with existing trees and adding trees to supplement is not all trees grow up straight and have a canopy that is perfectly uniform on all sides. And it's virtually impossible to plan ahead for every circumstance that you would have when you go into work on a large site, to have a full understanding of exactly where you're gonna have a lack of opacity in the landscaping and buffering. So what we've agreed to do is to start the work, do our clearing work on site, and then identify those places where there is not adequate screening from vegetation and supplement that to the point where we're providing an opaque, non-see-through vista from that side of the property. So we are committed to providing absolute buffering along that edge and planting whatever it takes
It's important to
to make it
understand,
happen.
what the landscape is actually doing is just softening that wall, right? There will be an 8-foot screen, you won't see the RVs, and so
No, I
what this
understand
is doing is
I know, I totally
softening
understand
that hard edge.
that. I understand that, but there's nothing like a tree, and there many are gonna be eliminated. The, interior of the site is pretty well wiped clean. There are very few that are there now. In my 40 years of development, on large-scale properties, over 100 acres, often, we have been able to do a site plan showing where our plantings are going to be with existing trees. So, I don't quite agree with you, but I respect what you're saying. What you just said recently was that you are committed to this buffer as densely as you can, not only with trees, but with shrubbery. Am I correct with that statement?
I didn't do the landscape plan, but I believe there's shrubs that were required by code in all those different areas. It's a multi-tiered
I was,
group of plants. You've got grass, you've got shrubbery, and you've got trees.
Exactly, but I know that you're a fine company and you're committed to doing more than just code, but the best for building a quality facility and to be sensitive to the neighbors.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's our goal, is to
Say something.
yeah, he knows. I know that's part of what we're going through, before he joined the zone, we went through all of the trees and the clearing, and he knows that with the development, that as you go forward, you have to plant, if you took down trees, you have to put trees back according to the code.
right, and a lot of clearing has to be done to develop the site because a big reason is it's got an unusual amount of topography for the area. And in order to meet the slopes we need to have in the roads for the RVs to be able to cycle through there, to make things safe, to have ADA compliant, sidewalks in places, to get the stormwater management system to work, there's a significant amount of clearing. I mean, land excavation and grading that has to be done.
And I agree with you, it's an unusual grade and pattern on the slope, so I can certainly appreciate that.
It's very difficult to save trees when you're getting anywhere near moving dirt around their roots.
Sure, yes, yeah. And when I was there today, I was admiring some magnificent trees that are there. So when you eliminate a tree, whatever reason, it's my understanding the code is that you have to replace that tree.
I'm not a
Depends
landscape.
upon the size and type of.
So in coastal Florida, for instance, if you cut down a gumbo limbo, you have to, and if it's a large one, you may have to plant 5 gumbo limbos to replace it.
Ours is based on
Government.
the inches, I think, right?
It all depends on what jurisdiction you're in as to what their ordinance is required for.
Well, that's why I was trying to get some clarification
Right,
here.
and your code is currently not super clear on,
It's a little vague, you're saying?
it's a little vague,
Yeah, okay.
so.
We're discovering that, yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay,
Okay.
I had there's one more question about in the plans, I saw the tree protection system that you have in here,
Yes, sir.
in the silt screens. I was just wondering, why that wasn't put up already, but I guess we're not counting all the clearing that happened before. We're just saying that didn't happen.
I don't know the history on prior activities. We've tried to save every good tree we could on site in the grading. We've got tree barriers to go up around them before we start doing massive clearing, moving earth. So they're easily identified and protected from somebody inadvertently.
And that's what I saw, I thought it was, lots of care was put into this plan. and-
Right.
But, the purpose of the plan was to protect the runoff and keep the turbidity down, but none of that happened before.
Everything has to be,
That nothing was protected, it was just, clear. And I know that's not what we're, approving here, but still, it just seems, interesting.
Well, when did it happen and was it permitted? Questions I have,
It's questions everybody asks,
yes.
because nobody seems to know the answers, but, okay. Thank you very much, I have no further questions right now.
Okay,
somebody asked about dumpsters. There's dumpsters by the, down near the clubhouse area, restaurant area.
Right, that's,
Are they shown on the plan?
Yes, sir.
I missed it.
they're gonna be the plans.
it's for the,
But we're screening them.
Did a good job.
is it a vinyl fence that goes around it, or is it wood?
Beg your pardon?
The fencing that goes around, is that vinyl as well?
Yes.
Are they between the clubhouse and the restaurant?
No, they're between the restaurant and the Boundary Road that goes around
Oh, I see. Thank you.
on the south end of the property,
And
Towards the
will,
lift station?
right near the lift station.
okay, thank you. And will that be your central dumpster lookout? So it will be for restaurant and maintenance waste, let's call
Correct, yes, sir.
And
And it'll
it,
be,
and residential.
and it'll be picked up, it's 2 dumpsters and it'll be multiple pickups a week as needed, basically.
One other question I had is the comfort station, I'm sorry, I don't know, what's a comfort station?
Comfort station is a combination of bathhouses and laundry facility.
Okay,
So there'll be
there's two
a-
laundry.
Right, so there'll be 4, in our comfort station, it will have 4 family-style restrooms with showers and 8 washers and dryers in the laundry area.
And those are gas dryers, I hope,
Yes, everything's gonna be connected to the natural gas
Yeah,
system, that's all the
the,
city has.
the lines in there, so.
Yes.
I was assuming, and we're happy to have you as a customer. The gas department.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
I'm good.
okay, anything else?
Where's my?
I don't have anything else. Should we hear from the public?
Oh, yeah. Well, we can.
Now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in a motion, I would have to include this recommendation, the staff recommendation.
Please do include the,
Verbatim
please
or-
refer to the, no,
Okay,
you
refer
can
to-
refer to the
That's what I want.
condition in the staff report.
Madam Chairman, at this point, I would like to move approval of the final site plan for Moonshine Acres RV Park, with the one caveat, the recommendation that the staff has included in the report.
Okay, second. No, something else. Thanks. Okay,
Hello?
yes, there's public comments, please.
I said they mentioned, I thought they mentioned, they called, I'm so sorry. They have to motion before public comment without the final motion. They have to do a first and second, and then the public comment. I don't know how all this stuff works, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's,
new
you're
for us,
fine,
too.
you're good.
Hi, my name is Beth Roush, 533 South Prospect Street. My husband Mike is here as well, and we are the North Boundary.
Okay.
We are it. I had all these notes and you all have covered things so well, and Ryan, developers, engineers, we just really appreciate everybody, just really taking us into consideration. We basically wanted to put a face with the northern boundary. Again, wherever you guys, it's just great to hear that, that we're being thought of. And I just wanted to say that, and back and forth with the owners, first of all, let's see. We have been coming to the meetings with the developers since its inception a few years back. Earlier this week, we reviewed the final plan in all its glory, where our shared boundary was concerned, we were in particular looking at. And in the back and forth with the owners, developers, we have concluded that since this was decided in past meetings, that we all like to be good neighbors. We have all discussed this, and we just, again, appreciate, your thoughtfulness and consideration in the matter. Many of our concerns, like the 8-foot height, the fill-in trees, they've been addressed tonight, as well as, that driveway being just for golf carts and emergency vehicles on Prospect. That is our driveway. That is our mailbox. So if, we could limit it to the emergency vehicles and the golf carts like discussed and, sounds like decided would be great. Basically, yeah, putting a face to what that is. We only had the one thing, which was, did you want to mention, honey, did you want to come up and mention the trees over the driveway?
Can I come
Can you come ahead of us?
Please do.
Okay.
You can join her, you can.
I think that's about everything I wanted to say. Like I said, a lot of it's gone out the window because you've so well covered everything tonight, and we appreciate everybody being here and putting the input in, thoughtfulness to our property that we work so hard to have. So,
Well, I just want to kind of,
Mike Brown.
Mike Rouse, your husband, just to let you know, my heritage is from here. My uncle Slim Thorne came in 1928. My grandfather came in the 1930s. So my heritage has been here. I grew up as a boy fishing the lake. We did live in Jacksonville with my father because he was in the Navy, but I was down here every weekend. So Crescent City has a big place in my heart. And I'm kind of related to the Pickens, kind of. But the thing is, when I retired from UPS, I purchased a property in 14 because I wanted to come back down here and be a part of the community. My big concern, and I could go on forever if you know me, but my big concern is the buffer that is there now, the few trees that line our driveway. Most of those trees, Ryan, are on your side of the property. I'm concerned that Dr. Collette, his son, planted eucalyptus trees along that northern boundary. When you get down into my driveway, there's two or three of them that are dead. And they've been falling on our property, and I have to clean those up. Those need to be taken down. The other concern that I have is when Ryan was clearing the property, or not Ryan, but the people clearing the property of the trees. They're on that boundary. If you walk down my driveway, the further you go down, there are trees that, I don't know if everybody knows Phil Bailey here in town, but Phil Bailey told me they're called Chinaberry trees. They're virtually a trash tree.
Yeah.
They get up fairly large, and when they get up large, they come down. I had one of those trees come down last year when Ryan's folks were clearing out the property. We called Ryan. He had his guy come over with his little backhoe, or a big backhoe. Took him literally 5 minutes, and he put it on a pile, and they burned those piles. The guy charged me $1,000. That wasn't even my tree, you know? And I was concerned about that, but I paid it. I wasn't gonna argue, and I wasn't gonna bring it to Ryan's.
So what's your request?
But my request is, there are 3 or 4 more of those Chinaberry trees. When Ryan and the developers put up the fence, your fence is either gonna get destroyed, because we've had, since that hurricanes, there's one, if you go down on the property right now, Ryan, where your property at the lake meets ours, you'll see where a couple Chinaberry trees have fallen onto our side of the property into the lake. So my request is that those Chinaberry trees need to be taken out and something else be put right in their place. And then there's a couple big oak trees that are on Ryan's side of the property that are coming down, and the limbs are coming down into our driveway, and they just need to be trimmed. So that's just a big concern of mine, and the number of trees that are going back to replace it. And I will say, some of the commissioners that we've talked to in the past, they didn't realize that there was a road. There's really a road. You have the trees by my driveway, and then there was a road that went almost all the way to the lake. So they didn't take down a whole lot of trees in there. I know that one commissioner was concerned because, well, there's not 25 feet. Well, there never was. There was like a little driveway road, and I always kept it cut, which, by the way, I keep the sidewalk edged and cut, since we put that in myself, so I do that. But that's my concern is we want to have enough trees there a buffer because I retired 47 years from UPS. I chose to come down here and be on the lake. It's beautiful, you know, and, you know,
It will be.
and it will be, and, you know, my background, if you know me, I have a degree in real estate and urban land development. And Best Family, they were developers, and I chose to go to UPS and be in
Okay,
management
Mike.
and not do that. But I'm happy to be in Crescent City. Now, all our grandchildren and 3 of our 4 children are in Jacksonville, Beth would like to be in Jackson, but we're here, and I love it. So that's enough said.
Good neighbor.
But I'm just concerned about that, and I'm, like I said, you guys they're taking care of our needs, and that's all that we can ask for.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to come and walk the driveway and the property and see trees and things and whatever needs according to the plan and everything, knock on our door, we're retired. Always,
We're there.
always,
Helps them, you know,
20
not
bucks.
sure as neighbors are
Please,
so in agreement.
please do.
That makes me feel better.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah.
Please do.
I'm happy to help them out, and anything they want those trees to come out, happy to do it.
Glad you said that,
Yes.
because that's a private agreement between you and your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. That has absolutely nothing to do.
Yes.
However, it's very nice to hear.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Okay, Ms. Taylor?
Roll call. BJ Laurie,
Aye.
Tina Dodge,
Aye.
Kenyatta Hardy,
Aye.
Veronica Glover,
Aye. Okay. All right. Our next item of business is our land development code review, Articles 9 and Articles 10.
Thank you all for being with us.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to run?
You can stay if you want.
Yeah.
yeah, take a 5-minute.
Yeah,
Yes, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. So I can do the running man.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, showtime.
land development code review, Articles 9 and 10.
Okay, thank you. I'm Peter McClenny, and I serve as your planner from Jeff Cohen and Associates. And, Jeff Cohen is working towards updating Coastal Cities Land Development Code so that your regulations and your processes better align with Coastal Cities' unique sense of community. So we're able to better preserve your natural and cultural resources and that equitable leverage, and that we distribute the benefits of development equitably. So as part of the land development code updates, as the land use authority, which is the planning and zoning commission, you all make recommendations to the city commission, and your role as the land use authority is to review the purpose of the regulations, to achieve the goals and objectives that are in your comprehensive plan, to protect your valued assets, and to facilitate the desired change. And as Mark mentioned earlier, administrative, quasi-judicial, and legislative, this is all, their discretion, as elected and appointed officials. So, collectively, your team, has over 80 years of experience. My grandkids asked me how old I was, and I told them I was older than the internet, and they thought that was really bad. So we're made up of urban planners, landscape architects, and civil engineers for the folks that are reviewing your land development code. The primary goals of the team is to determine whether the regulations are in compliance with industry best standards, to check if the topic is clearly formulated so it's easy to understand, and to decide if a suitable approach has been taken to address development issues. So the team began by performing an assessment. I think that you all got a copy of that assessment of your current land development code to identify deficiencies. I think that we saw some of them as things are going forward. So the review focused on the code suitability to satisfy the development objectives, consistency, whether or not they're enforceable, and how easy they are to use and to understand. The scope also included developing solutions relevant for the code update, and one of the most important things that came up was the downtown core overlay and its performance standards. So the land development code for Crescent City is developed in accordance with state statutes, which you'll see today, annexation is following state statutes, and following industry best standards. Our goal is to encourage high quality development, to provide for a streamlined review. And as you know, and I've said at every meeting, good codes are the foundation upon which great communities are built. They're the framework that regulates where and what type of development can occur. And when well done, codes can make it easier for a local government to actually implement its vision. So this was the schedule for adoption that includes the project team reviewing. The work products monthly with members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We've met with the Historic Preservation Commission, the Tree Board, and the City Commission as sections of the document are ready for review and comments. This hopefully has helped manage the expectations and allow for adjustments throughout the project. And prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission review and subsequent comments, articles are first peer reviewed, just so you know. Your city engineer, your city manager, and following your all's review, the articles are then forwarded to the city commission, and workshops have been scheduled to review the proposed code. So on April 14th, a staff workshop was held of 2022 actually, was held to initiate the process. June 23rd of 2022, a joint city commission and planning board workshop was held to study the issues. That's, I think, where your diagnostic report came from. And the results of the workshop were key to identifying priority items to address. And these were the items that were identified as priority. The results also identified issues and challenges and acknowledged its waterfront, the gateway location to the St. Johns River. It also envisioned a code that would usher in a vibrant, livable, pedestrian-oriented downtown with its historic character. I think it's great. Since I've been here, you've been designated as a main street. I think that's a great hallmark for Crescent City. And so the major focus areas include the creation of a downtown district, arbor and landscaping requirements, adding design standards, and other tasks such as updating chapters 1 through 6. I don't know if you have a copy of this, but this is your they do, thank you. Your diagnostic review, the current, where it is in the current article and where you would find it in the proposed article. This one is blank. The annexation is gonna be Article 10. And it was in my thumb drive. This isn't part of the record, but I had to fly urgently to Virginia, and I went with the purse, and I didn't come back with them because somebody else found it. So I lost my thumb drive in that, but most of this has been filled out, and I can fill this out. So Article 1.3 in the diagnostic report, you did request that it be a separate article, so this Article 10 will be reviewing that tonight. Just want you to know it's going to be short and sweet because that's really mandated by state statute. So you'll see those filled in. We are going to address your development review committee, and I think I'm going to put that either in chapter 2 for administration, which we have not yet seen.
Yeah, I was wondering about that when we were talking about moonshine mining. Who is our development review committee?
DRC it's a staff of the committees, Public Works, Natural Gas,
Fire marshal.
I'm sorry,
The fire marshal.
Fire Marshal, we have a Fire Chief, so it is. It's staff level review.
And you,
And
and
myself,
planner, area planner?
Yeah.
Okay, that's, I was just wondering, because it mentioned that in the staff report, I'm like, well, who's that? Who does that refer to?
So I'm glad that you have this, just so you can be able to follow where it used to be and
Where it is now?
where it is now.
also, Jason Shepard, you're with Jason Shepard, sorry.
So creating a code is and has been a process leading to the elimination of a lot of duplication and clarifications resulting from regulations in several different ordinances and different parts of the code. Some of the code actually competes with itself, so it would be really hard to correctly interpret it. So the city's proposed regulations are intended to achieve a variety of objectives, including preserving open space, environmentally sensitive areas, and making the development review process a little bit more predictable. And in addition, the city's asset downtown preservation of the historic district would incentivize downtown overlay, and the CRA have positive impact implications potentially for your downtown area. And the components of the development code comprise all regulations and standards that currently historically have been scattered all around your code through zoning ordinances, subdivision regulations, and various other documents. So consolidating the various development regulations into a single document is going to help provide full disclosure of all your myriad of regulations that can affect a proposed development. And so this leads to better predictability for all. The land use authority, you all as, operating as legislatively, your developers, your citizens, and your elected officials. So when consolidation occurs in a thoughtful and deliberate manner, the development code approach can help to eliminate those inconsistencies and redundancies among your various code. And that's been the goal. You guys have been extremely helpful and very patient throughout the process, and I've appreciated that very much.
Reading through our old one, that's amazing.
So we are going to circle back to chapter 3, which is your zoning ordinance. And the zoning code establishes where residential, commercial, and other land uses may be located within the city, what type of permit is required for each use, and what standards apply to new issues in development. And so development within districts have to prescribe what the standards that are applicable in that district. And so that's why as the land use authority. I mean, right now is the time to be able to do that, because
Can I,
it's legislative.
can I ask you a question about our zoning?
Sure.
Because in other cities, I've seen the term FAR, or area ratio,
Yes.
and we don't have that in ours. We didn't have it before, and I don't see it, and, you know,
Do you understand for your ratio?
yeah, we don't,
Okay.
do we, in the new one, that's what I was. 'cause I didn't see it.
I would have to look at the code.
I was just
To explain,
Yeah.
you want me to explain for your ratio?
No, I understand it, I just didn't understand why we didn't include it, because I thought it was.
So the floor area ratio is this: if you own, we'll just gonna say an acre, and your floor area ratio is 1, that means that you're going to use the entire site for your floor area.
You can build a building on the whole 1 acre.
So if your floor area ratio is 2, you can have that same square footage and size. Now you cut it in half because now you went up and higher and you saved that open space. So if you take the same amount of building and you do 3 stories, then you saved more open space. So sometimes and I have an example of floor area ratio and if you look at this, well, I'm not sure what page that's on in your, that's exactly, and so floor area ratio applies to commercial. Density applies to your residential. This is exactly the same density. The difference is the top one has design standards, the bottom one has 0 design standards. That's why your design standards are so important. So a lot of times when local, communities get all fired up about density, it's really not density.
Yeah.
It's design standards.
Yeah.
And you all do have design standards. I don't know if they're codified yet, but you do have great design standards. And your design standards for your, historic preservation are gonna be mandated through your Secretary of Interior standards based on what's already here, based on your, what you built as far as that goes. So that's a little lesson on FAR.
Because we talked, and I saw that it has lot coverage, but it doesn't talk about FAR. So that's 2 different things, right? The lot coverage is just the actual area, but going up will be like.
Well, we're gonna circle
I
back
got it,
to.
I just want to make sure we didn't leave.
Article 3, no, we have a lot to cover in Article 3. We have the overlay district to understand, the boundaries to solidify, which we all think it's gonna be recommended. So Article 6 is your site plan regulations, and this involves compliance with all the technical standards, developing clear procedures for review and improving site plans is vital, which that was the experience that we all went through tonight. So the site plan assures construction is designed and developed in a manner which assures adequate provisions for traffic, emergency, water, soap and sewer management, stormwater erosion, protection of the environment, groundwater habitats, historic resources, and minimizing adverse impacts on adjacent properties. So I remember somebody who was on the board wanted guidelines, and you can't use guidelines, you have to it has to be mandated, and that's their role and responsibility to your community. So this spells out how much space should be reserved for off-street parking, loading and unloading, and your parking standards are in Article 6. Article 7, your subdivision regulations, this is what addresses the quality of development, which is different than zoning, that addresses where it goes. So land subdivision is the first step, as you all know, in the process of community development. It's divided into streets, lots and blocks, and then it's publicly recorded. And subdivision of land sooner or later becomes a public responsibility, and that roads and streets must be maintained and your various public services must be provided. So the community is affected in many important aspects and respect. It's the interest of the public, folks who live here, developers and future owners, that subdivisions be designed and developed in accordance with sound rules and proper development standards, because it's going to be your responsibility to maintain. Okay, and so zoning affects how the city looks, works now to the future, and subdivision regulations affect the quality of development. You're all gonna be able to pass the ICP test. If you want to.
Learned a lot.
Okay, so the zoning, let me see, that has one. So we know why it's important. Okay, we've also, so we've talked about, site plan, we've talked about subdivision regulations, we've talked about zoning. We did Article 4 with landscaping and trees, we do have to circle back to one of those. And then we talked about concurrency, which was Article 8. The concurrency regulations require that local governments have the capacity in stormwater, parks, solid waste, water, sewer, and transportation to serve each proposed development. These public services are known as concurrency facilities, and if concurrency is applied to other public facilities, the comprehensive plan must provide principles, guidelines, and standards and strategies, including adopted levels of service to guide its application. And the foundation for a legally viable concurrency system is also the implementation of capital improvement plans for delivering essential public facilities. And your city manager did forward me your capital improvement plan, so that's very viable and helps with your concurrency here.
Is that the new for this year? This time?
No, the most recently adopted.
Oh, last year, yeah. Yeah, the draft one this year.
So if what happens if it's not concurrent, so the applicants have the option to withdraw the project, scale back the project, or agree to implement conditions or mitigation options that will make the project concurrent, so it's not a do or die. So, that leads us to where we are tonight. This is going to be Article 9, which is signs. And, as, at our previous, meeting, you all looked at me like, hey, we've already done this before, and I'm like, oh, okay. So indeed you had, like 3 times, and so now we have for you, the one that you, in 2022, the Crescent City Planning and Zoning Commission recommended amendments to section 6.7.2 and 6.7.3. And the city commission adopted ordinance 2022-11 after 2 public hearings on July 14th, 2022. So Article 9 is the updated, Article 9 is now the updated land development code, which accounts for all the amendments that were considered in ordinance 2022-11. So, you get to have a really short and sweet meeting tonight because you've already approved that one. The changes, are going to be from, Article 6 to Article 9. So it'll be up to you how you want to review that word for word like we do the others. And you'll be really happy to know that Article 10 annexation follows Florida Statute 171.0413 to the T. And it's the annexation, required procedures. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room. That you really have an annexation. There are 4 ways in which an annexation may take place. It can take place by a special act of a legislature, a voluntary annexation, an involuntary annexation, or an interlocal agreement with Putnam County. And so all of those ways in which an annexation can happen are outlined in Article 10. Which you've been provided. And so there really isn't too much of a lot of comments. I could probably answer questions about it if it happens, but it's pretty much following the Florida statutes. So, all the members who are so interested in the land development code, but like to provide input are encouraged to do so during the planning and zoning meetings.
I scared them all off.
I don't know how I scared them off, it looks like I have. And the project next steps, we're currently revising the articles based on comments that we get from you all. We're still identifying the zoning map changes, and the maps, to study those. Sooner or later, we hope to present for adoption at public hearings and make those final revisions. Okay, so, what we could do next is, I'll leave it up to you all if you want to go through, Article 9, which you have before, the change from your adopted ordinance 2022-11. The change that you see in the proposed land development code is going from Article 6 to Article 9. All of the definitions, are now exactly the same. So that'll be your discretion on how you want to do that.
And then, remember, I mentioned that one about the political signs too, because that had been changed from 30 days to 50 days.
So they still, Bobby had recommended we just take it out.
It's number 6 on page 3.
Yeah, it's under 9.3 under standards, number 6. Because it was originally 30 days. And I mean, 32 square feet is also, I think, very large for political sign, but,
Okay, there was more about political signs than our attorneys did
yeah.
take everything out.
Yeah, it's just, it had a 30-day, they can only be put up no more than 30 days in advance, which that's just not enough time. And the one time they changed it, I forgot what year it was, 2015, I think it was changed to 50.
Well, I like Bobby's recommendation.
Just take it out.
Just take it out.
Even number 6.
I mean, if you take it out.
Take it to number 6.
I mean, if you take it out completely, the 48-hour thing I always think is good, because if not, then there's no enforcement to people paying.
To remove them.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're gonna have to tell me where,
oh, I'm sorry, under standards, number 9.3,
9.3.
yeah,
Right here.
number 6 about political signs.
Okay, oh wait, so
It's, on page.
I'm on it here, but I need to get out of.
You don't think we need that?
I mean, I don't want to get rid of it completely, but,
I think we only need the 48 hours removal.
because I would make sure that mine were up in 48 hours, and not just,
And not when we put a 30 days.
yeah, because,
Yeah.
What do you think about the 32 square feet?
I can't get it to go up there.
ridiculous, but
I can't imagine.
Too small.
way too big.
I was saying no more than.
Yeah, but I mean,
An 8x4.
32, I mean, that's.
I can imagine
That's
everyone
a-
doing
I
that.
really got,
And when it counts both sides, but
Can you
yeah,
imagine?
no, not that big.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but I only put yard signs out. But I mean, and it's saying that you can only, for each lot, not more than, once is not more than 32, yeah, not more than 32
okay, so on
signs.
page 3, I'm on
Yeah,
number
each
6.
goes up.
Are we making any changes?
Well, if you think about down here, as you're in the south.
Right, Irwin's property.
Or when
Yeah.
everybody, a lot of people put a big 4x4,
Right.
double sided, yeah, 32 square feet,
Is that about, would it be,
16 per side.
I don't know, wait, what's?
Council, you got both sides, if they put,
Sure.
they don't put it flat, they put it usually perpendicular to the road,
Right.
4x4 on the side. And that's it seems to be a main place for signs.
And
This would allow that, we could remove the,
I would say 8x4.
which are in place no earlier than 30 days prior to the election referendum they pertain. And then leave the removal clause.
Yeah, I like,
Sit up
the
there.
removal clause needs to stay in there. And I just-
I'm not following this.
We're,
Hey, we're
sorry.
just- still working it out.
So, okay, just for clarification, is that stipulated anywhere else, or we say we just don't need it?
We just, I think the date, the time limit is just restrictive. Because first of all,
Prior to time limit.
right, yes,
So you're saying that they should be able to put them up?
well, first of all, the law says it's 50 days now, because that was passed in 2015. They changed that already to 50.
That's
And
state
50
law.
days is, no, that's our codified law. But even 50 days is too much. I mean, there's not enough. Because, I mean, if there's a special election in 60 days for me next week, and I put out my signs next week after I qualify, I'm in violation of that. For
You're gonna have to
instance,
recuse yourself because I mean.
no. But I mean, as an example, hypothetically, if I was running for city commission, and I put out, I mean, and that would just be a special election, which is a very compressed period of time. So, and it doesn't say anything in here about whether primaries and because not thinking about city commission, think about county and that kind of thing. Because you have a primary usually, and then you have the general election. And even 50 days before the primary is not enough time.
What do you recommend?
I think we just can take out the 30-day prior.
Because somebody could put one up now for the 2024 election.
Well,
Are you okay with
people
that?
do have signs up now for the 2024 election.
I don't care.
Trump, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But would the issue be just it being too many things littering the
Litter.
Yeah, I mean,
city?
It
I
becomes
That's
numbered,
why.
yeah, basically, just put them all over town would be, we don't regulate political signs during an election, and this kind of ensures that it's real close to the election, they go up.
Yeah.
And then they gotta come down within 48 hours, so.
I mean, I like the coming down within 48 hours. I always have mine up in 48 hours because I know, because that's what this is always said. And that's pretty good. I mean, everybody usually does. But the 30 days, it's 50 days already, and I think 50 days is.
What do you guys think?
I mean, my point would be if we did not put some type of stipulation and people just put one up and leave it up forever, would that be the signs all over the city? It sounds like what they were trying to eliminate.
Right, usually they are. And it's saying that they have to be removed within 48 hours after the election. So that would, yeah, if you wanted to put one out for the presidential election, you could, if we got rid of the days. So I can see it both ways.
I mean, I don't know.
I think,
I would recommend at least 60 days, because that's how much time we have to call an election, we have to set a date that is 60 days.
So change it.
But there's also no specification about that.
So,
That would be my recommendation.
but I wanna go back to what BJ said, so if you have a primary in August,
Right,
okay?
there's a general primary.
And so I win the,
Are we gonna say?
I'm the primary that wins in August, September, October, November. They gotta go and take down all those signs and then put them back up.
That's what you need, you're trying to get at, you wanna make it 90 days because of the primary situation?
Yeah, I just thought about that when, you
It's
know,
August, September, October, November, that's 90 days, yeah.
yeah.
Should we make it 90 days then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Let's make it 90 days and leave the 48 hours removed.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice and simple.
You guys have a meeting.
Yeah, 90 days, and what's the other one?
That's it.
That's it, we're leaving the rest of it.
Moving on.
All that just for that. Yeah. Well, I'm covered hypothetically.
He's not gonna let it say it.
Tired of you all talking.
Yeah.
I have a small suggestion on page 2,
Yep.
second paragraph. And it says, time and date public information signs may be included in this definition.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. No,
You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
But on that paragraph, the first sentence after signs, you need a T for that.
Yeah, we,
Yeah,
You got that? Okay, great.
Signs hat.
yeah, there's quite a few, like sign, there's this my device, it's actually any, I think it was, OCR at one point, but there was a lot of that.
I thought that this was the one that you worked on.
No, this is not it.
Oh,
Definitely not.
Okay.
It's not, I have it right here in front of me.
That was a nice there. Those are rare.
Yeah.
Then on page 3, 9.3 standards, 4, historical marker not exceeding 4 square feet in size. Might there be some times when it's gonna be appropriate to have a larger
I
historical
think
marker?
that these are referring to like ones that if we were to put them on each
On
house.
homes,
Yes,
is that correct?
that's correct. It's not,
Just on a residential single family
it's
home?
not
Okay.
a,
Not the
That,
big ones
that handles it.
You got it.
Okay.
I was just, remembering that when we first wrote this in 2005, we just bought that sign and put it out from City Hall, the electric one. And that's why it says in here that, it does not apply to government information signs.
Yeah.
Because that's when we wrote it, because we just spent $10,000 from the place thing to buy that sign.
And then on page 4, it's, number 8, under B, define portable signs for me.
Portable signs, let's go to definitions.
Page 4.
Portable sign, why is it a sign or structure? Okay,
No, the numbers, go down, keep going down, page 4.
Yeah,
yeah,
see
but
that?
he wanted a definition of portable sign. A sign or sign structure that is or was designed to be
Okay.
easily
Oh, H is the
moved.
list.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that handled it. Okay,
BJ, this is yours.
It's not, there's no, I have it right here in front of me, and I have those marked.
Okay, you do one.
Then you need to,
Okay,
because I put the page, the headers or the footers at the bottom, page numbers, that have the city of Crescent City and Article 9, so, did I email you the wrong one back?
maybe, okay, that's all right.
Because I'll just check and let me know, and I'll send you the other one. I changed the footer to look like all the other chapters.
then on page 9, under 9.4, B, it speaks with, of course, non-conforming, and
Oh, this stuff's on
One.
time limit, yeah.
one says that after the end of the 7th year.
Yeah, that was one thing I was gonna ask about.
Yeah,
This was when that ordinance was passed.
may I
Oh,
finish?
sorry, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was it.
You think ahead.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that there could be a situation where it's a historical sign and we want to retain it.
But this is only for a non-conforming sign, why would it?
Well, you changed the code, it was conforming before, you changed the code, it's not conforming because you changed the code.
Well, this was,
But this is a,
yeah, the 7th year would apply to when it was codified.
Right.
signs which are non-conforming. Well, so like a historic marker becomes non-conforming?
No, like a big neon sign that we love and we want, I can't think of any sign right now.
Well, yeah, exactly, there may
I
not be.
think of
any
Black
like-
has City Cafe, they're actually gonna give them a grant to save that sign.
Yeah,
Well, absolutely, like there was some neon signs in a, like, not, maybe it was Crescent Beach, I can't remember, but people went there forever and it had and the new developer bought it and down it comes and.
Well, it wouldn't be.
well, no, particularly neon, but there could be something about conforming that we do want to say. I just, so is there a way that we can make an exception?
Yes, there
Okay,
is,
that
yes.
handles my question.
Yes, there's always a way you can make an exception.
Okay,
And so my question refers to the time period there. It says after the end of the 7th year, that the sign has become non-conforming, which would have been when this was first codified and passed. So do we need to just take those, because it also says flashing signs that are non-conforming must be removed or conformity within 1 year of the enactment of this code. This was when that ordinance was passed first, in like 2015 or earlier. So do we need to just take those dates off? Because when is the 7th year now? Or we're not talking about the 7th year.
This is 2022.
But it was also passed before that, 2015, and before that, 2005.
You guys are the land use authority, you tell me what you want.
Well, I'm saying that we should take all that out, because it's not conforming, it's,
Well, I think it's also for the future. Let's say we
but it's,
create the downtown zoning district and.
but it would be non-conforming already. So this was giving a time limit for the fact that when they passed that zoning ordinance in 2015 or 2005, that after 7 years, the non-conforming sign has to be removed.
Is there any non-conforming signs right now that are
Not
existing?
that I can think of.
Okay, well,
well, we haven't made it in.
So why do we need to have this in here? If it's.
I think it's for future,
But it's not, what it's not saying is not for the future, because if it's non-conforming, it was non-conforming before, and you can't build something non-conforming.
it says or becomes non-conforming through zoning changes. So somebody,
Well,
Rezones their property.
can stay, yes, but
then they have 7 years.
at
to
the
keep
end of the
using that sign.
7th year, the sign has become non-conforming. We're not letting them build it, and then 7 years later, they have to take it down.
Yeah, because they're gonna argue, I paid a lot of money for that sign. I had this happen in Groveland. I paid a lot of money for that sign, and so they let them keep it 5 years in that case. Then they had to
Why
comply.
is that? Because they changed
Yeah, they changed the sign code.
This has already been changed. This was implemented
Yeah, the sign code.
8, 9, 10 years ago. So
But I
why
think
do we
once
say,
we adopt this new code, that becomes the new starting point, right?
but why do we need to even put that in there? If it's already been passed. It was codified 8, 10 years ago.
Because it becomes a do-over when we pass this in October, November.
It should just be non-conforming already. Why are we giving them a restarting time? Fine, this
So you're saying that
It already, this was when it was codified, it was more than 60, it says 60 days or, and 1 year. That was
Has
a
it been
long time ago.
enforced? Is there, we need
But
to,
if it's not, if there aren't any non-conforming, we don't need to be putting this in here. It's just.
I don't know if there are.
So what they're saying, so.
It was already passed. It was not,
Go ahead.
because this was the wording from the ordinance that says, at the passing of this, it becomes, if it's non-conforming, you have 7 years and it has to be removed. This has all been passed. This was codified and passed by the city commission more than 7 years ago, the first time. I can look for it, I think 2005.
I
Let's
remember.
clarify.
Yeah,
What do you recommend?
I just think the time limits, if I was
Take it
reading this as a citizen, I'd be like, well, why does it say after the 7th year?
Well,
And that
why-
means that I can start right now in 2003 and wait 7 years.
I don't think so, because 2022-11, this was underlined. That's why it's staying underlined.
But
Because this was what was
This was
recommended by the
changed.
land use authority. And so that's why it's staying underlined, because
Okay,
it
so
was
then, but then would it be 7 years? past
2022-11.
Right, so then it's 27 years from 2022, so when we're passing it now, it's not 7 years, it would be 6 years.
But it's also for future instances where something
Yeah,
becomes
for the
non-conforming.
future.
But it becomes, it's not, if you can't, you feel well, that's
So
why,
you want
yes.
to change it to 6 years and ask the board if that's what I'd like.
I'm just saying that it's, I don't think, okay.
I don't think we need it, that's my opinion, I'd take it out.
Take what out?
So what would
After
make
the end of the
something?
7th year, the sign has become non-conforming, just take it out. Why do we need it?
Take out number 1.
What?
Do we have signs that are going to be like that soon?
I mean, we're not gonna.
Well, we're thinking like 10 years from now, there's a rezoning and someone's
Well, that
sign
part,
that
yes.
doesn't meet the code.
Change zoning.
They get to keep it for 7 years, is what it's saying.
And
We
then
don't have to make them spend money on a new,
Uh-huh.
now that you're rezoned, you got to take that sign down today.
Right.
We said you got 7 more years of use of your sign, and then it's not conforming, you've got to comply to your new
To
zone.
me, if it's grandfathered in, it should stay.
Well, some commissions want, when they have, like, say, the big thing is like they go from, pole signs to monument signs.
Right.
They want that all over the city, and you just don't make everybody change, you give them 7 years or 5 years or some number of years, that you get to keep using that, sign, and then sometimes they'll even, like we said, you can actually take the top off and put it on a base, keep using it, you do it within 5 years, otherwise you gotta put a whole new sign up that
It
meets the new
says,
code.
or become non-conforming.
So it can, I kind of
Yeah.
trying to.
No, I was just trying to clarify, because based on the wording, if we're adopting this, if this is what we're gonna adopt, is it saying that if the signs are non-conforming, say, and this is all based on zoning, if the zoning districts change, is that what I'm saying?
That's both of them. When they passed this the first time, if you had a sign currently in place and it became non-conforming because of these rules, you had up until the 7th year to fix it or take it down. And then that's part of this. That's the thing, that the time limit is just part. And flashing signs is it must be removed or brought in conformity 1 year from the enactment of this code. Well, that was last year. And I'm saying,
What was last year?
when they first, this is all just taken from the ordinance that you guys passed
This
last
is
year.
existing language.
This is all of this is existing law. We're just updating it into the land development code, which to me would mean that we take out these time periods. I mean, if it does change, if the zoning changes, then you need to bring it into conformity, but it just shouldn't read like this. I don't know. That's,
Well, I need a recommendation to forward to the city commission.
my recommendation is that you update, that we just update it.
So are you basing it on because we're adopting this, we're not changing any zones, so we
We're not-
don't need it?
We're not adopting this is staying law already.
Mhm.
We're just including it and codifying it in that land development code. So that in the future, when someone comes and wants to deal with signs, they can look it up and see what it says. But that, I mean, time limit then shouldn't be different than, it shouldn't,
But
it's not the
this-
same as when the ordinance was passed.
The ordinance was passed in 2022. It's ordinance 2022-11. So it's been in effect since July, I think, of 2022. Since this Land Use Authority Board reviewed signs. So do you want me to change it to 6 years? Do you want me, what recommendation do you want to give the city commission?
I think the number one is kind of generic, is saying, in the instance that something becomes non-conforming, through a zoning change, you get 7 more years out of it. Second one is more specific to 1 year from the enactment of this code.
Right.
Could just be flashing signs which are not conforming must be removed or brought into conformity.
Yeah.
Period. That would be my
So take out,
recommendation.
take out the 1 year, or the part for the enactment of the code, just must be brought, right there.
What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm fine with 2. I still don't agree with the, number 1, 7 year. I just don't, I think it's,
What are we doing with number 2?
2, just like you said, change, take off the end of it.
Give me
Oh,
out there.
because it's saying within 1 year from the enactment of this
Yeah,
code,
that's-
because it was enacted.
And then after the end of the 7th year, you don't
Just leave
want
that,
that?
because if it does become non-conforming by changing zoning types.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
leaving number 1.
Yeah, leave number 1.
they like it, I don't. That's life.
And then 3 makes sense because, or no, it is for the,
I think too, that, there's like the First Amendment that somewhat applies, so he might have needed to stay. So,
Oh, Tim. You mean,
Mhm.
Bobby?
So
we can
I'll send it to him.
try and make it here.
All right. Anything else on this?
No,
Anything else on the signs?
other one, zoning official.
No.
Oh, yeah, 9.5 enforcement, sorry. It just says, the city manager designee shall issue a stop work order if in their terminology, if the termination, it says the zoning official or designee, what's a zoning official? You don't have a zoning official.
It'd be Mark, our plan director.
Okay, so we call him if we saw a sign that was non-conforming that we wanted to do something about, or
Where
you,
does it say that? The
It's
zoning
right there.
official or anything shall also have the authority.
wouldn't that be the zoning official, the enforcement official?
I don't know, this was, I just,
Right,
you
no, I know,
told
I'm
me at the
asking-
last
I'm
meeting
asking him.
that this is
So
what
we
you
can change
wanted, exactly,
Yeah, that
because you
would
all
be,
worked on it so long.
Citation would be the code official
The code enforcement.
or his/her.
Well, no, I just, all of them changed from his to just, or designee.
Declaration or designee.
Yeah. They've all, there's a lot of those. That would change.
So,
So code enforcement, that's what I wanted.
so what are we doing?
We're changing it from
From
zoning
9.5.
official to code enforcement official or designee, we're taking out the
Changing
pronoun.
zoning to code enforcement official.
Yeah, we should not use his or
Checking out his.
ever, again.
What?
We shouldn't use his or her when we're writing.
Oh, right.
I didn't like
We
this
might have
one,
a-
it's verbatim,
I got it. I got it. Not on you.
No, it's not, yeah, I'm not
I
blaming
must be
you.
angry.
You can actually take out the underlining. It's,
Yeah, I can see this one.
His.
we're taking this whole thing as
Right, that's
fresh
right.
code.
I did that in the other version. The font also changed, oh no, that's the
Okay, just put the subject here, signed.
Any questions on 10?
The 10 was, makes sense.
10 is what?
We'll need to include a copy of the statute
Explain
for the
further.
commission review 10.
Little wiggle room.
I'll have a link to it.
You always want the statute.
I have the name of it.
It looks good.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I have no, comment on that.
Yeah, 10 is. Anybody have any comment on 10?
I do.
So you want me to get a copy of that?
If you could, yeah. We'll include it in the packet we send out this request.
It's almost verbatim in here, but yes, we can do that. So no questions on 10. Well, that was too easy. Now I'm nervous.
I don't know if you can expect that again.
So next,
I hope so, but
what are they gonna see?
We're gonna see, administration,
Sure.
and general overview. And so and waterways is left, so we have Article 5, waterways. Article 1, which is general, Article 2 is administration, and we need to, look
We haven't done
at,
design standards either.
No.
and finish, chapter 4, which is, or
Zero
3,
standards.
or 3.
Is it 3?
It's either 3 or 4.
We did 3B zone, right?
Three is accessory.
3 is zoning, and 3B is
Accessory
zoning,
structure.
is accessory structures.
So it's 4 that we haven't done.
So we haven't finished 4, and your design standards, I think, are in 4, so we
Quite a
have,
bit.
we have waterways, general, administration, and waterways came up after the muni code audit. So zoning, finish Article 4, waterways, and 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot. I hope it's not
It's 2 months worth.
2 months worth, no.
So yeah, so it looks like October.
So what's next month? Again, I couldn't hear you.
So next month will be, 1 and 2, which is general and administration. And that talks about the boards and all of that. And then Article 5, used to be waterways, let me see if my computer, I'm not sure which article it is now, but waterways. And that is a result of muni code that needed to move it into the land development code. And then finish zoning with the overlay.
But then we're not doing all that next month. We're only doing one and 2.
I didn't answer your question, 1 and 2.
I was ahead of her. I was put in October, I was in November now. I kept going, like-
We can have 2 meetings in 1 month if you
Architectural
all.
standards are 4.1.
Are we gonna have both meetings at the same time? The historical preservation or?
Oh, that's right. We gotta decide that.
Yeah.
That's part of
Now it's fine, so if you guys give me a date, I have to contact her first thing tomorrow.
I thought we were just, I thought our consensus on Monday was to do after the meeting. That's not,
Okay.
We did.
that's what we talked about.
Okay.
After the meeting.
Sounds good.
After the meeting?
Yeah. So we'll just have it directly after the.
Monday, instead of doing, we thought that after Monday's meeting, we could go back to doing it after.
Yeah, we were gonna do drawings, because I have that VHS starting at the end, and I'm not gonna be here. Or, well, that'd be fine. It's fine. I'll do it. Stop looking at me like that. Or are you looking, I can't see her eyes, sorry, these are glasses on.
So, do you think we need a workshop for zoning and historic preservation?
For
us,
P and Z, or works for the commission.
For P and Z? Or do you think we
to
just?
learn about
What do you mean?
it, like a workshop to educate us.
Well, we never
Oh, to
finished,
work on the maps.
yeah, because we are gonna have to make zoning changes.
We're gonna do 1 and 2 next month, September. And then waterways in 4 in October. Does that include zoning? Plus zoning?
And plus zoning, we can add zoning, because overview and administration is not that difficult.
Oh, so the next month might be quicker.
Mhm. It'll be like this, it'll be, here's your boards, here's how they operate.
Let's talk about it. We may try to put more in next month.
Okay, yeah.
Well, don't forget, we're doing the, historic preservation board right after that too, so I just have to let Alice know.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe stick to 1 and 2.
Madam Chairman, I move we adjourn.
All right, I'm good with that.
Second.
All right, that's been moved and second, and we adjourn.
Aye.
Nice job, thank you.
All in
Did you see
favor?
your page numbers? Did you notice the page numbers?
Yes, okay.
Yes, nice, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect timing.
Hey,